Hello everyone, my name is Heiner, this is Rainier Books, this is Sweden Calling, and I would like to give you another wrap-up of my reading of the plans for reading in August and the things that happened last week. Let's go! I haven't made a sum-up video because I hadn't finished the book. And one of the main reasons, I blame this on the European Championships in women's football or women's soccer in England that were finalized 2 days ago with the win of England against Germany after extra time. 2-1. Chloe Kelly scored the goal, and it was an iconic picture of her that went all around the world because she took off her shirt and was just running with her sports bra and cheering and celebrating, and this has led to some beautiful articles, for example in The Guardian, which I might link down below because this picture was seen as a very feminist picture. But before saying too much about football, I want to go into literature. I finished one book last week. I finished it actually yesterday, and this is by the Korean author Hwang Sok-yong, and this was called At Dusk, and I read this together with Katja from her channel is called Katja Weinert. I put a link down below. We had a great buddy read on this one. It's a pretty short novel which was published in 2018 in English and which was also, as you can see here, longlisted for the International Booker Prize. At Dusk is the story of a very successful South Korean entrepreneur in the real estate business, building houses and whole complexes. And he comes from a very poor background, a city that is no longer existing. First he comes from rural Korea, from more rural parts, but then his family went to Seoul, to the capital, and there they lived in a very poor and deprived community which no longer exists, which he has himself done a lot when he got successful to demolish, to destroy from the face of the earth. And there's also the history of a woman who approaches him when he gives a lecture in Seoul, who gives him a note. She has a message from someone you used to know. She asks that you please call her, and then she vanishes into the crowd. And after that, he receives a text message from Yeon Byung-goo's wife, who heads him heading out the city back to the small town of Yongsan, where he actually came from. This is about the past of South Korea. It's a lot about, I think, these characters are a lot about South Korea and the enormous change the country has gone through from a very impoverished country, a very poor country, to a dictatorship, a military dictatorship. That was some events in South Korean history play a role in this novel on the sideline, and you have to really look them up if you don't know. I mean, I didn't know anything about it, so I had to look them up. The Gwangju massacre, for example, in 1980 plays a role, and then the change that the country has gone through to one of the richest countries in Asia nowadays, and to delivering us televisions from companies like Samsung and LG, which have become one of the largest companies in the entertainment industry in the world. So At Dusk is a very interesting novel about a country that is changing, but also how it has changed the life of the people and what this change has done to the people that are affected of it. Great novel. I'm very grateful to you, Katja, that you introduced me to this novel and that we read it together. I definitely want to read more Korean literature. After the Booker long list came out 1 week ago, I decided to read at least a couple, maybe half of the long list, if I make it that far, until the short list is published, as much as possible that I am interested in. There were 6 books that I was interested in. One of the titles I was interested in that took the, as I call it, the entire spot on the long list was Elizabeth Strout's novel O William that I got here. And I am looking very much forward to read this. But I understood that it's a sequel. It's a follow-up to a novel that Elizabeth Strout wrote in 2016 that was also at least longlisted for the Booker Award even in that year, and that is a novel called My Name is Lucy Bartom. And since I couldn't get this first book about the character Lucy Barton as quickly as I wanted it to have in English, I decided to go for the Swedish version of it, which I usually don't do when it concerns books that are written in English. But now I have it here. Mitt namn Lucy Barton, the Swedish edition of that book by Elizabeth Strout in the translation by Kristoffer Leandoer. And I have already read more than half of the book. It's about a woman, an author from the United States called Lucy Barton, and Lucy is in hospital for I think a couple of weeks, and she has a very difficult relationship with her mother, but her mother, whom she hasn't spoken to for years, turns up at the hospital, and she stays for a couple of days in the hospital. And this is about the hospital stay of Lucy Barton and about the memories of her childhood and her younger years. And also there's a parallel actually to At Dusk by Hwang, Sok-yong. It turns out that Lucy Barton also comes from a very poor family and she had a very rough childhood. And as I said, the relationship to her mother is extremely complicated. It's a very great novel. I like My Name is Lucy Barton, or Mitt namn Lucy Barton, as I have it here, a lot. And I'm very much looking forward to then start with the Booker list and with William. I have a little bit more from this Booker list has arrived thanks to the Stockholm Library. Thank you, my friends. And yesterday I could pick up this one, Claire Kegan's book, Small Things Like These. And this is also a very short book. And actually it's very interesting because here it says berättelser, as you can see in Swedish. So this was sorted by the library in Stockholm as short story collection. And as I understand, this book is written in snippets, in shorter paragraphs, but it is nominated as a novel for the Booker Prize. So Claire Kegan, Small Things Like These, is on my August list, as another book is from the Booker long list, and that's Nightcrawling by Leila Motley. I've started a couple of pages. I really like the description. And also this one is playing in a very poor community in Oakland, California, in an Afro-American community and Afro-American family. Then I have three more books actually that I want to read in August. Hopefully I get through them. Two of them actually were on my own prediction list for the Booker of 2022. One arrived yesterday, and that is Julia Armfield's novel, Our Wives Under the Sea, that I sort of nominated for my Booker Prize. And this is Julia Armfield. She was born in London in 1990. She's a very young writer, 32 years old. And this book is about a lesbian couple. I think their names are Muriel and Leila. Leila has been on the sea, and she has made some kind of diving expedition, and she comes back totally changed because the time under the sea has changed her character and has changed her physique. Maybe she suffers also from a lack of oxygen to her brain. I don't know yet. But as far as I know, Our Wives Under the Sea is a book about loss, about grief, about Miri being happy that she got her wife back, but she's not the same person that she was. And there are a lot of memories in this book that are described by Julia Armfield. Looking forward for this one as well, as I do for Wayward by Dana Spiotta, which is a novel about a woman in Syracuse, New York State. She buys a house in the other part of town, an old, beautiful house that is totally rubbish. Also, it has to be renovated. Everything has to be renovated. And it's also on the bad side of town. And she's sort of trying to start a new life by renovating this house. It's a very good start for that novel. And then I have a new project. I want to read myself through the Booker Prize from the beginning until today. I don't want to read the winners, but I pick a book from each and every year first. And I start with 1969. And in that year, I think it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. I went for the novel The Public Image by Muriel Spark. My God, she has written a novel called The Ballad of Peckham Rye. I've been to Peckham Rye. 1969. There was, I think that's the original edition. Yeah, from 1968 actually. So this book is from 1968, from the first Booker year, and it's called The Public Image by Muriel Spark. That's also something I want to read in the month of August. That is about everything. Things happening in my surrounding. I moved to this part of town in April 2021, about 16, 17 months ago. And some things are happening here that I really do not like so much. On July 14, a 20-year-old man was shot to death about 300 meters away from here. And actually, 2 nights ago, Saturday night, was the first time when I was sitting here in front of the TV on my sofa that you can see behind me. And there were shots ringing out in the night at 10:30, 10:40. And finally, first I thought it was like a fireworks, but then after a while I went back to the sofa, and then I saw the blue lights of police cars, and there were 5, 6, 7 police cars. So there was another shooting. Nobody was killed, but a young man was shot in the leg, and apparently there are gang wars going on in this area, which is kind of spooky, kind of scary. But it is like it is. I don't feel very unsafe here, but you really have to take care of where you go and where you are not going. So don't show up in the vicinity of 4, 5, 6 young men's corner boys, you know, somewhere. That's something you actually should not do anymore here, because there might be somebody else coming and shoot at them. So that's really kind of spooky, kind of scary. I have 1 more week of my holidays. That's a good thing, and I hope that I can read a lot in this week until next Monday. Thanks very much for watching this video. And I hope to see you soon with my Canada list, hopefully on Thursday. Bye-bye.